and welcome back to another edition of Metcalf's Movie Journal. This is the show where I do quick reviews for the movies that I watch, give them a score out of 10, and then add them to my list. So let's see what movie we're reviewing today. On February 28th, I watched Arachnophobia, which came out in 1990. And there's something to be said about the glorious late 80s and early 90s, and how the art of practical effects had become something so special. Whether you're talking about Dark Crystal, Alien, The Thing, or this film, Arachnophobia, it almost seemed like the people working in that field could feel the computer technology hot on their heels, so they were constantly pushing themselves that much harder to prove how good they could be. It makes me sad in a way to think how good this stuff could still be if it hadn't been completely obliterated by the computer, to the point that when something like Mad Max Fury Road comes along, it gets endless praise for its use of practical effects, even though it's still super reliant on CGI. Don't get me wrong, I still appreciate Fury Road for doing what it did, but there's been so much more money spent on computers than practical effects, so we'll never know what we missed out on. This movie is much better than it has any right to be. I fully expected it to be another cheesy monster movie in the same vein as Anaconda, Deep Blue Sea, or one that came out from the same director dealing with the same subject matter, Eight-Legged Freaks. But I guess having Steven Spielberg on as a producer has some benefits. I can't say for sure how much influence he had over the making of this film, but there's something uniquely Spielberg in the style of the setup here. A small town being ravaged by a killer version of an animal we all instinctively fear. Ring any bells? Jaws is the obvious movie to compare this one to, and it's easily one of the most popular movies I still haven't gotten around to seeing. So don't hate on me too much. I'm sure I'll get to it eventually. But for now, all I can really compare this one to is all those other terrible monster movies, which can really only help make this one look better. In general, the script is the most important part of any movie to me, but it was especially true here, because those other monster movies I mentioned never had any believable characters, and they always behaved like complete idiots. But here, the script does a solid job of building authentic characters, and even when they're terribly frustrating like Dr. Metcalf, they still feel like real people. I have to say it was fun seeing a character share my last name, even if he was the most annoying person in town. The fact this movie had me caring about the characters at all was impressive, because the monster movie formula doesn't exactly leave a lot of room for how it can end, and that sort of predictability usually makes it difficult to stay invested. I think how effective this one will be for you will directly correlate to how scared of spiders you are. Same goes for something like The Walk and your fear of heights, or Buried if you're afraid of being buried alive. These movies would hit you that much harder if you share the fear of being explored. I used to be a lot more terrified of spiders than I am now, but I would still never let a tarantula crawl all over me, or anything like that, so this one definitely still had my skin crawling at times. If you already like some of those cheesier monster movies I mentioned, this would be an easy recommendation. But it's also worth checking out just for Jeff Daniels. He's a tragically underrated actor in my books, and his performance here is good enough to keep this thing from ever getting too silly. It could have been a complete mess with the wrong lead, so he was a very smart choice. I ended up giving it a 6 out of 10, and it landed at number 671 on my list, putting it right here, in between Patch Adams and Kingpin. So thanks for watching. Thanks for watching another edition of Metcalf's Movie Journal. Be sure to click like and subscribe for new videos every week. And if you have a movie that you really want me to watch, be sure to drop me a comment.